I like that number because I think, it's enough for us to have some play money and it's enough to pay the bills and have some savings. So let's call it 10,000. Okay, if you want to make 10,000, what do you need to do to achieve that? Maybe you need to be doing more calls per month. Maybe you need to put your prices up.
This is Girl Take Note, a podcast for women who are looking to turn their dreams into reality. Hi, Caroline. Welcome to the Girl Take Note podcast. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks, Shantell, for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's always fun to interview fellow podcasters because one, you're comfortable on camera, you know how to move the conversation along. Sometimes I get guests and it's like, you got to help them move the conversation along. You know that, right? Like you have to help them out a little bit. But when I'm able to interview experience like podcasters and people who've been on podcasts before, then it makes the conversation a lot easier. So I'm excited.
Fantastic. So am I.
Yeah. So let's start off with your experience in digital marketing. Kind of tell us what kind of sparked that interest in spark your interest in entrepreneurship, but also how did your early ventures, because I know you had some other companies that you started before and sold, how did those kind of shape your approach to business?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I've always been an entrepreneur. I started a business back in high school. My father was an entrepreneur. So that was just sort of what I did.
Yeah.
When I was about 20, I bought into a hairdressing salon. I was a hairdresser and I bought into a hairdressing salon. And when I bought into it, on my first day there, I looked around. I'd been working in this salon for a few years. And then I looked around and I went, oh, we need to do some marketing to get more clients in. So that was actually, I went back to school and I studied marketing at that stage because I realized I needed to do marketing to have a business. And I'm just such a believer in, if we're not marketing our business, then we're not growing, we're not developing. So we need to be marketing.
Yes.
And I think we're lucky because that was over 20 years ago and things were much harder. And I think now we're really lucky that things are so much easier. There's a lot more out there, but it's easier. So I went into marketing on that, only for that basis. And I did some really cool things and I started to learn guerrilla marketing back then. And I'm just such a keen, enthusiastic person about guerrilla marketing. I've done some really crazy things over the years. And I've got funny stories of things that I've done. And then I had a few other businesses after that where I had, before Airbnb was a thing, I had a property, a holiday property. And that was before Airbnb has this like nice templated, do this. I actually put all that together without anyone ever telling me to, and put together a special welcome book. And I had wine on the table for people. And I did all these things from a marketing standpoint. And I just got the most incredible reviews. And I sold that business. I sold the house. I sold the business with it. And my friend actually bought a property as well around that time because she saw what I was doing. And she rented it out and took all of my stuff and used it as a template for her business. And she did so well. And this is well before Airbnb days. So marketing to me has been something that's been in my blood for a long time.
It's so funny you mentioned guerrilla marketing because I remember that was like the go-to thing. Like I used to do PR back in the day too. And because I'm 40 plus, getting ready to head into my 50s, actually a few months. And I used to do guerrilla marketing was like the thing. Now with social media, it's so much easier, yet also it's kind of hard as well. So kind of tell us how maybe you can give some strategies, because I know a lot of my girlies that listen to my podcast, marketing is like probably one of the hardest things for them to do. And it comes to, like you said, you're just so passionate about it. It comes so easy for you. But a lot of them find it so hard to find the right strategy for digital marketing to help them grow their business, to help them gain influence, to help them gain trust with their customers. So what do you think are some of the tactics that they probably can use to help them kind of begin to build a digital marketing type of plan for themselves?
So my first advice is keep it really simple. Keep it simple, stupid. You really need to keep it simple and not overthink it. I'm really, really good at overthinking things. And I think because I know so much, I actually take on way too much and I have to pull myself back. And what I can say is that what most of my clients do is that they think that they're not smart enough to be doing it. So then they get really worried that maybe they're not good enough. And I actually think that they have it on their side. It's actually a benefit to not know too much because then you're not overthinking things. So just really, if you don't really have much skill, just try to keep it simple, first of all. Second of all, there's so many people out there that are telling us all different things all the time. I'm hearing all different things. So it gets overwhelming. But I think if you work it backwards, so I did this. I actually went on maternity leave for 4 years and I just came back. And when I came back, I used to be very big in the e-commerce space. And I had, I was very, very well known in e-commerce. I had a very successful podcast. And when I was coming back to work, I said, what do I want to do with myself this time round? And I really sat down and thought it through. And I did exactly what I tell my clients: think it backwards. What is your goal? What are you trying to achieve? What's the business for? Are you just out to help people? If you just want to help people, then making money is not important to you. And maybe you just need to make enough money to pay the bills. That's one thing. But if you're in business to say, I am just here to make money, then you've got to start looking at business from a different perspective. And you need to know what your goal is. So understand, how many hours a week is your goal to be working? What do you want work to look like? Is it traveling? Is it not traveling? I was at a hairdresser and I had a salon. I love the idea of having another salon. I just saw another friend of mine open up this amazing beauty salon. And it gets me really jealous and makes me go, I really want a salon. And then I realized, no, I don't, because I don't want to be stuck in one location. So as much as I love that, I need to keep on reminding myself, what is it that I want to do with my life? So understand that. And then once you understand what you want to achieve, then work it backwards. Okay, I want to make $10,000 a month. So these numbers keep going around. People are like, make $50,000 a month, make $100,000 a month.
Caroline, yes.
I get so sick of it, because the first thing I say to my clients is, why do you want 100,000 a month? Like, what's your reason for it? Because most of these people saying it are not doing it. They're just making it up. Or some of them are making it. There's actually a woman I'm seeing a lot of, and she's talking about all these big numbers and saying, I don't work, I do 2 hours of work a month and I make 100,000. Then in her email, she's like, oh yeah, so I did 50 calls this month and I did 50, and I'm personally doing all these calls. Well, if you're personally doing all of that, where's your 2 hours a month? Like, you're lying about something. It's either you're lying about the money or you're lying about what you're working on. So people need to stop worrying about what other people are doing and just say, what do I want to achieve? What's my goal? And if you want to make, say, $10,000 is a nice round number. I like that number because I think, it's enough for us to have some play money and it's enough to pay the bills and have some savings. So let's call it 10,000. Okay, if you want to make 10,000, what do you need to do to achieve that? Maybe you need to be doing more calls per month. Maybe you need to put your prices up. Maybe you need to go and educate yourself more and become a better professional to be able to charge more money. Maybe you can run courses. Maybe you can collaborate. I'm really into collaborations. You're into podcasting, so you know what it's like. I'm just putting out a new collaboration. I'm actually just starting a new Facebook group around it. I love collaborations and the amount of money you can make. You're into podcasting.
Exactly.
Collaborating with people. So I think that there's lots of ways that you can succeed without feeling overwhelmed, but just knowing those couple of key points makes a difference.
It makes a huge difference, because you're right. There's so much chatter in this industry today because of social media, because everyone, like you said, are selling at 10 to 15, 100K a month. This is all you have to do. Buy this one digital course. This is one thing that I notice that people are doing. And they're like, buy this digital course. It's going to teach you how to sell digital courses, and you're going to be able to sell digital courses. You're going to make all this money. And it's only a course that teaches you how to sell digital courses, to teach you how to sell that particular digital course. And so many people are falling for it because so many people want to find a way to be better financially dependent. And here's a question I want to ask you, because I know sometimes I have friends that struggle with that, helping people versus having a certain having a certain price that you want to make a month. Right? They start to feel guilty. Like, oh, you can't just chase the money. You have to be able to add value and bring something to people. You can't just be all about the money. And I'm like, is it okay to say, you know what? It's not that I'm all about the money, but I need this money to pay bills, take care of my family. So it doesn't mean that I'm not adding value, but it's okay to say, like you said, to set that goal that you want to hit every month in order to help your family financially. Because I know people who feel guilty about talking about a dollar amount.
Yeah, and I think that that's an area that we have to be really careful of. I think there's even talk at the moment about Mother Teresa, the most famous, kindest person in the world, about how much money she was actually making behind the scenes. So when I hear of that, I'm like, I don't have to feel guilty then if she's like going around making money too. Money makes the world go round at the end of the day. If we don't have money, then you can't survive. Now, maybe that might mean that you're making enough money to pay someone else to help you, because not you taking on all the responsibilities. And then that way you're actually giving someone else a job. So the way I see it is that every time I give work to someone else, I actually see it as someone who didn't have a job before. They have now work to pay their own bills, to pay for their own children's food. So to me, the more money I make, the more I can help other people. Yes, I can put something to saving. That helps my life, but also I can do other things with the money. If that means going on a holiday, I'm paying for someone in another country to have a job in a hotel that they wouldn't have if people like us didn't travel because we were making the money. So the way I see it, I don't see money as a bad thing. I see money as a good thing. And I think we can do good with it in a lot of different ways, not just saving it all, because yes, we're going to save a lot of it, but there's going to be times that we can spend some money too. So feeling guilty about making money, I think, is something that we shouldn't do.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. We definitely shouldn't do it because we have to survive in this world. Okay. And that's the way we have to do it. I don't think it should be your only goal, right? But it definitely should be a part of it if you want to build a sustainable business, right? A profitable, sustainable business.
I think anyone who's seeing it as their only goal are doing things that are very illegal, wrong, used car salesman sort of things. So if you're only out to make money, then you definitely don't have the right value system if that's all you're trying to do. But if you say, I want to make money, I want to have a business, but I also want to make money, then you're not going to do the wrong thing. You're not going to try to scam people or rip people off. So yeah, I think that there's no problems with that.
Yeah. So I know you're an expert when it comes to like high ticket lead generation funnels and stuff like that, because I know that's something that one confuses a lot of people. So what do you think are some of the common mistakes you see maybe most businesses make when they're trying to get their digital marketing together when it comes to lead generation?
I think the number one mistake people make is that they think it is a matter of putting out one ad and then suddenly they're going to have someone signing up. It takes on average 14 touch points for someone to buy from you. And that's on average. And that number is a little bit old now. So I remember when I started marketing 20 years ago, the number was 7. It took 7 touch points. About 5 years ago, they were saying it's 14 touch points. But they're saying now how many pieces of, how many visions we have per day, different media that we see per day has dramatically increased. So I think that number is no longer 14. I'm guessing it's high, but let's call it 14 as an average.
Yeah.
Now, if it was 14, that's average. So that means some people are going to buy from you when it's like time level 1 or 2, but some people are not going to buy from you until time 100. That's not because you're bad. That's not because they're bad. That's not because you're doing something wrong. It's not because they don't like you. It's just literally, it takes on average people 14 times to buy. Think about going out to buy a house or a car. You don't usually, sometimes we do, but not very often do we walk in and just buy something straight away. We usually have to go back and look at that house 2 or 3 times, or look at the car 2 or 3 times, or go through some, websites and have a look at some stuff. Even buying a pair of shoes, I think we can have this conversation, I'm guessing. When going to buy a pair of shoes, we can sometimes just walk in and go, I'm buying these shoes because I really want them. But usually, even then, it's come with some sort of thought process behind it in the first place. Maybe it was I was looking in my wardrobe yesterday and I was like, I've got this brand new dress and I don't have a pair of shoes to go with it. And I saw the shoes that will actually match with it. And so it's already in your head. You're already processing that thought beforehand. So if you put a course in front of someone or put a service in front of someone, and especially the difference between pull marketing and push marketing, you're pushing something onto them when you run an ad. That person wasn't looking for that product or that service. And then suddenly they see your ad. Now, to think that that person's just going to say, oh, I'm going to just buy that. Yeah, it's not very often that happens. So I think that what I see happening is that people think that they're not good at what they do because they didn't get that person to buy straight away. So that means you need to have a really good email system going on. You need to have a really good touch points with people, whether it be remarketing ads, whether it's emails, but getting in front of that person time and time again. It's not that you're annoying them, and it's not that you should feel guilty about doing that. You should just keep putting ads in front of those people, keep putting emails in front of those people until they just say, I don't want to be on your email list anymore, or they stop taking notice of your ad. But I've been on email lists. I don't know if you've done it. I just did it a few weeks ago. I had an email that came in for about 2 years. And I remember, I don't even know what it was. And I bought from that email for the first time in 2 years. It wasn't because I didn't want it before. It just wasn't the time for me before.
Yeah.
So if we put ourselves in that thought process, then we stop feeling stupid. We stop feeling embarrassed, because that's what a lot of people think. They think, oh my God, that person didn't buy that. I've got people on my email list for 6 months and they didn't buy. And then people start to feel insecure and embarrassed, and they think, I should stop sending them emails because I'm going to annoy them. Don't think like that. Just think, you know what? If they don't want to be on my email list, they'll leave. And if they want to buy from me one day, they'll buy from me, and I can keep on letting them know about what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's true. That's the mindset we should have. If they want to be on my email list, they can unsubscribe, right? They don't have to feel guilty, because I do think some of us do. And even with me, with some of my emails, I think when I sent out for the podcast, because that's how I get a lot of my downloads, because I send out through emails and I collect emails. I do sometimes feel like, oh man, am I giving them too many emails? Like maybe I need to pull back some, because we do think we can't inundate people inboxes with emails, because I know even with my own, sometimes I look at stuff, sometimes I don't. But I do go back sometimes and look at certain things. So you're right about that piece. Let's talk about email, because I love talking about email simply because I still don't think people understand the value of it. Like I see so many different types of creators who are very successful, but don't have an email list, because they solely depend on whatever platform they're on to be able to create their community. And so I think we need to reiterate on how important it is to have an email list, how a lot of people sell through their email lists, right? Like a lot of people make money through the email list. And I just don't think today's generation understand the value of it. They just think everything just is right now. I'm on social media, I'm on TikTok. This is my community. That's it. But they don't know, okay, TikTok might be taken away, or this might go away. Then what are you going to do? So tell us how important to have or build an email list is when it comes to your business.
Yeah, I think that the first thing about email lists, it's our own playground. I think that's the thing that we really need to understand. It's your own playground. You can do whatever you want there. The amount of people that I hear that they got hacked and they lost their Instagram accounts is unbelievable. And that could go on for a week or two. You can end up getting hijacked in a really bad way. So if you have an email list to back you up, then you've got, instantly you've got a way to get in touch with people. It also helps you really understand who's really interested in what you're saying and doing, because while there's certain things that you can see on Instagram, people can like your posts, people can comment, but I feel like email, it just takes things to the next level, that you really get in front of that person where they can say, okay, I'm going to buy. You can give them more information in emails. You can send them information at different times without you having to be on your TikTok or your Instagram. I don't see a downside to email. I think that email is something that, everyone should have. And I do find it amazing that there's people out there still that don't have an email list. I think that that's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think so too, because it's important to have. And I tell people all the time that my social media accounts don't really dictate my downloads when it comes to my email list, and I'm like, because it's so important to have it. And that's where a lot of downloads for me happen. That's where a lot of sales for me happen as well. And so it's important to have that and build that. I want to ask you something about guerrilla marketing, because guerrilla marketing, of course, was definitely like that main thing, right, that we used to do. Do you believe it's still relevant today to have a strategy for guerrilla marketing in such this digital I want it now type of world that we live in? Do you want to start your podcast, but you're worried about the cost? Well, I've got the perfect solution for you. I'm Shantell Sanders. I'm from the Girl Techno podcast, and I'm here today to tell you all about my podcast starter kit, only available on my Amazon storefront. This kit has everything you need to get started, from headphones to microphones to audio interfaces, all under $500. It is one of the most affordable kits to help you get started with your podcast's dreams today. So don't wait. Go ahead and grab yours now. Click the link in the description below and start shopping, and happy podcasting.
Definitely. I think that, the really good examples was the deodorant ad or the shaver, Dollar Shave Club. That's all guerrilla marketing. Yeah. And okay, it's done through YouTube in a slightly different way, but those are still like that really something different, something left field, something that you wouldn't expect to happen when it comes to marketing. It's still in that sort of area. And we still, I think, because there's so many of the same things, like so many people just copy what someone else did. Okay, that person put out an ad and they put butterflies in the ad. I'm going to start putting butterflies in my ad. And then suddenly all the influencers have butterflies in their ads, whatever it might be. But imagine if everyone's got butterflies in their ad and then suddenly there's an ad where a tiger walks across. You'd be like, hang on a second. Been seeing all these people doing butterflies. And then suddenly something's different. So thinking outside the box, I think, is still completely relevant. And while we're doing a lot online, I think that there's still things, depending on the industry, of course, there's still ways that you can get out there offline as well and create businesses offline. So while a lot's going on online, I think that some people are still missing out on some value opportunities. Like I still love doing, I haven't done them yet because I've just come back to work, but I love doing live events, and I'm getting back into doing live events because I think that there's still something there that wasn't lost through all the COVID thing. So I think that there's still things that we can do that are different and something that stands out.
Yeah, I think so too, because I feel like in-person things are what truly build community and relationships. You know, and not to say that, hey, we can't connect online and have communities online, because we do it all the time. But I don't know, it's just something about when you're able to meet people face to face, when you gather with people who have the same mindset, same goals. It's just a different type of experience. That is a real experience versus just that online kind of connection. So I think it's still value in guerrilla marketing and live events. I had a conversation with I think she was, I can't remember. I think she was a recruiter, like, you know, help HR, help people get jobs and stuff like that. And I even asked about, do people still do in-person networking? Like, do they do that anymore? Like, where are those events? And she said the same thing in terms of like, they're still very valuable to go to in-person networking, because that's how you make real connections with people versus kind of like just that one-off kind of thing online where you make real connection. You can really get some real opportunities through that. So I think that's important. How important it is to have an automated process when it comes to your business, your marketing, because a lot of the time, a lot of us will sit at our desk and we'll do everything ourselves, right? And we don't even think about automation and being able to find tools that can automate certain things for you, or either we just don't understand it. So how important is to have some type of automation process in your business?
Yeah, I think in this day and age, it's the most important thing. I run an all-in-one marketing tool for that reason, because there's so many parts that we are doing that we don't need to do. I just interviewed someone on my podcast the other day about AI, and he came up with just the fact that there's actually a tool, and I didn't even know, because I don't get into like some of these tools, or like he's like, this is his business. There is a tool where you can actually find out, you can type in something and it can search all of your images in your Google Drive. So I was like, oh my God. He goes, the amount of time that he spends doing this. And one thing that he's doing is every time he uploads a picture into a JPEG, he has it made into a PNG file straight away, and a different size. And it's all done automatically. So then he can have the two different files automatically in his folders, and he can search his folders and find images without having to wonder, oh, where did I put that image? So that alone, having that automation process is just mind blowing. But, you know, things like email, things like follow up, just the emails between us to get onto this podcast. If you didn't have that automation, I know people that still don't automate that very well, and they actually still have to do some messages back and forth. But you can take that to a whole nother level. You can start adding into there, like if you wanted to. In this case, it's not the case because you're not selling anything to me. But it would be so easy after one of these like appointments to send out an email saying, hey, do you want to go and like download this, or maybe you want to see this, and start to get people to actually look at something that you're selling. And then that's another touch point. Like I said, you need average 40 touch points, and having those extra touch points can really make a difference just from making sure that your emails are set up properly off the back of a calendar appointment.
Yeah. And I think people need to understand that. Like, I'm so glad you said that that's a touch point, because a lot of people might be like, well, what are the touch points? I don't know what that touch point is. And so being able to know that simple things like that, just send out a follow-up email with someone you just had maybe a one-on-one call with, who's probably a little on the fence, right? Didn't want to make the sell, but you can follow up with them in different ways. Those are those different touch points that can really kind of help you move that customer down your funnel, you know, in order to actually see a sell out of that. So I think it's important too to have more automated pieces. And AI has really come into a place where we're so dependent on AI, and it's only going to get more. Like, I can't live without my Chat GPT. And I say to myself, what did I do before Chat GPT? Like, how did I write emails? How did I write like all this different stuff with social media captions? How did we even do this? And it's so funny how AI can come and just completely erase that part that you used to do. To just now with the automated piece of it, because you're just like, it's just 10 times faster, and it's only going to get better. And I think adopting some type of AI in your business to help you grow, to help you build is a smart thing to do, because that's where we're headed.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. Like, I don't even think anymore. Like, anything I want to think about, I actually just go, oh, what's that thought I need to have? And then I just put it into ChatGPT. And I actually was saying to myself the other day, I'm like, I don't even have thoughts anymore.
It just helps so much. Yeah. Oh my God. It's almost like when we first got like Google Maps, we used to have, I forgot what it was that we used to have to print out directions. And then all of a sudden, and you're saying to yourself now, before we were able to print out directions, how did I get around before? How did I know how to get to and from places? So it's just that same thing where it's just like technology has taken us to a whole new level. It's only going to get more advanced, and more smart. And so I think being able to have some type of automation, some type of AI process really does help. We're going to pause for 1 second because I don't understand why my light keep going in and out. That's so strange to me.
I don't see it.
You didn't see it?
I don't see it. No.
Maybe it's just me. Okay. I'll get my editor to edit this part out. I just see it going in and out, like it's getting light and dark, light and dark, light and dark. And I'm like, oh my God.
I don't see it on the screen at all. So it's not changing for me at all.
Okay, good. Okay. Let's talk about, you have 2 successful podcasts. And first I want to talk about how important is podcasts as a part of business, right? Because I think podcasting can really help people business kind of get to a next level, kind of maybe increase their influence. And you've been able to have very successful podcasts in the past. So do you think maybe having a podcast connected to a certain type of business, I'm not saying all businesses, does help with the influence and does help you in terms of like marketing as well?
1,000,000%, 1,000,000%. And I know you run a course on podcasting. I think that there's not many businesses that can't really achieve great success from podcasting. I remember once thinking, oh, maybe an interior designer couldn't do it, but there is an interior design podcast. And I was like, oh my God, like that would be like, to me, the thing that I thought couldn't do it, but they can. So I think that if you think outside the box, and I think that, and I'm sure you teach this, that maybe you don't even do it in the same industry exactly. Like there's different ways to do podcasting that people need to realize that there's not just one way to do it. There's so many different options. And that's why it's probably my first go-to that I tell my clients to do, is to do a podcast. I had a podcast before I went on maternity leave. I sold that business that was just around e-commerce. The guy that actually took over that business, he bought the business from me. He bought the podcast. He's now running that. He's doing incredibly well with it. And I'm collaborating with him on other projects now. So, I'm all about collaboration. And I think podcasting is such a great way to do that, because doing a podcast, and like you and I after this, we'll end up having a chat. And like now that we've gotten to know each other, that maybe there's a way we can do a webinar together. Maybe there's a way we can do some sort of Instagram thing. I think that what you can get off the back of a podcast is so much more than just that one podcast interview. And that's what I think that people don't understand, the amount of power in a podcasting, having a podcast and being on podcasts as well. The amount of money I was making money off the people that were advertising on my podcast. I also, some people will actually run, they interview people and they charge people for podcasting. I'm not doing that at the moment with my new podcast. And my other one, I've got 2. I don't want to do it this time around because of what I'm trying to achieve with that podcast, but maybe charging people to be on your podcast is a great thing to do as well. There's so many different things that you can get out of it that, I think anyone who doesn't go and give it a try is crazy, because, once you get over, you teach all of this, you've got to get over that first 20 episodes, the first 50 episodes. But then once you're into it, there's just so much great potential, and it's so much more than that one interview. And now that I'm going back, I did a summit last time around in my last business. I had my podcast and I did this huge summit, and, because I'm so obsessed with collaborations, that was like such a big deal for me. And then I actually got to interview 18 different guests on that summit. That was all off the back of my podcast. I also had sponsorship on that summit as well. And all of those things all came about from my podcast to begin with. So coming back to work this time around, when I first started to come back to work, I actually started to come back in a very sort of smallish way. So I did my first podcast, the one for Life on Purpose Over 40, for women over 40. And that was, that's not even monetized yet. for that, I'm getting a lot of great guests. And what I'm finding is some of the guests that are on that podcast are actually coming over to my other podcast talking about business stuff. So I can transfer the people across. But the type of guests that I meet and what I'm learning from people is, I cannot put a dollar value on having a podcast. I think that it's something that has got no value because it's amazing.
It is amazing. And it allows you an opportunity to interview people that you probably haven't been able to maybe get a touch on before and be able to learn, because I feel like every time I interview someone, I learn so much from them. You know what I mean? Because I'm like right now listening to you about automation, even with podcasts, it's like I'm still a student of life, you know, and of learning, and I love to consume information. And so I feel like every time I interview someone, I always learn something new. I always learn something that I can take. I always learn a really good nugget here or there, you know? And so that's another reason why I felt like having a podcast is also a great thing. People want to talk about, it's oversaturated. Every industry is oversaturated, right? Yeah. Every industry there's always room for more people and for more people's voices to be heard and experiences to be shared. So I really do like that. What do you think is one of the top reasons why you have such great success with your podcast? Because I can tell one, first of all, is passion. You're passionate about, right? You're passionate about whatever you speak about, which is really good. And definitely your personality is like top notch, right? You're an easy person to talk to. You're very conversational. And so, but what do you think is probably one of the main things that made your podcast so successful?
I think it's something that you touched on, Shantell. I think it really is the wanting to learn. I think that when you listen to someone that's podcasting, and whether it's a podcast or whether it's some sort of other interview, you can tell the difference between someone who's trying to learn from that person that they're interviewing and the person who's there going, you're on my podcast. What do you like? Do you really think you know as much as I do? You don't know as much as me. And then that comes across with some sort of arrogance, and it makes it really difficult. So I think having that desire to learn something makes a huge difference. And also, just wanting to get to know people. To me, I think that there's so many opportunities. I was a hairdresser, like I said, for so many years. Yeah. And I used to turn up to these weddings and meet these like average girls, average families, and I'd go to their house to do their hair and makeup for a wedding, and they were just average people, and I'd have these amazing, incredible conversations, and I was always like blown away with, you know, the most average person always had something really fun and interesting to share. So coming into podcasting, to me, really, I have that sort of a mentality of everyone that I meet, I'm going to get something out of. And you said it at the start, some people are harder to interview. I interviewed someone recently, and you start the interview and it's like, this person's going to be really difficult because they're like almost like a robot, and you think, how's this going to go? And then you just have to find a way, and then you find a way to like get something really interesting out of them. So I think I just love the experience of learning something from someone new.
Yeah, I do too. And also meeting new people is always great. This has been really good, Caroline. I'm really glad that we had this conversation. Before we end the show, tell me what you're excited about next. What's next for you?
What's next for me? Oh gosh, I've got so much on my plate right now. And what am I actually doing? I have to think about that. So I just started a new Facebook group. That's probably the thing that I'm most excited about. I've got a new Facebook group, and it's all about collaborating. And I think that's, you know, coming into this now, having 2 new podcasts and having one before, and doing the summit. I've done 2 summits in the past, and I've done so many other ways of collaboration. And I realize that there's a lot of women out there that haven't got the resources, haven't got the actual people around them to collaborate with, or they feel shy about it. So my new Facebook group is really just helping people team them up, get them together, start working on things that might be a little bit small to begin with. But by collaborating, whether it's on a podcast, whether it's on some sort of just a Facebook Live to begin with, or an email list, sending out emails on behalf of another person into their list, we can start to create big things where we're not relying on things like Facebook ads and, you know, creating something that works with another person. I think that there is so much money that could be made in collaboration. So that's my Facebook group, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I love collaborations too. It's a great way to grow, to experience new things, and also, like I said, to make new relationships, build new connections, make new friends and stuff like that. So thank you so much, Caroline. This has been really good. This has been really fun.
Thanks, Shantell. Thank you so much for having me. And you've got to come on my podcast as well.
Yes. I would love to. I'm a woman approaching her 50s. So I know. Okay. All right, guys. I am Shantell Sanders. This is the Girl Techno Podcast, and we will talk to you next time. Thank you for listening or watching the Girl Techno Podcast. We really hope that this episode gets you one step further in turning your passions into profits. If you like today's episode, please make sure you like, subscribe, and follow Girl Techno Podcast on all social channels. And also make sure you review the episode, as your reviews are so important to help us grow. Also, please leave us a comment, as we would love to know your thoughts and opinions on this episode, and also any other episode that you might want to see from the Girl Techno Podcast. Until next time, we'll see you in the next episode.